It started as a routine evening shift in the emergency room. The air was calm, and most of my patients had been treated for minor injuries, cuts, bruises, and a sprained ankle from a car accident. Then, the paramedics wheeled him in, a man in his mid-30s, disheveled and covered in blood. He had been in a motorcycle accident, they said. His helmet had saved his life, but he was showing signs of a concussion. I approached him cautiously, noting the shallow rise and fall of his chest. His eyes darted around the room, wide and unfocused. He looked terrified. I leaned in and spoke softly, introducing myself and explaining that I was there to help. He didn't respond, only muttered something I couldn't make out. His hands trembled slightly, and his breathing quickened. Dr. Henson gave orders, and we moved quickly. I prepped IV fluids while another nurse cleaned his visible wounds. The man winced but didn't resist. I took his blood pressure and started explaining what we were doing, step by step, to keep him calm. But as I reached to adjust his IV, something changed. His breathing turned ragged, and his eyes locked onto mine. Before I could react, he grabbed my wrist with an iron grip and yanked me toward him. I stumbled forward, knocking over the tray of supplies. My heart pounded as he muttered something unintelligible, his eyes wild with fear. I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. "You're hurting me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Let go, please." But it was like he couldn't hear me. He shoved me backward, and I hit the counter hard, sending more equipment crashing to the floor. Suddenly, security burst into the room. 3 guards wrestled him off me, and even then he fought with terrifying strength. He shouted, his words slurred and incoherent, as they pinned him to the bed and administered a sedative. When he finally calmed, I stepped back, trembling. My wrist throbbed, and my shoulder ached from where I'd hit the counter. But it was over, for the moment. Later, we learned that the head injury had caused temporary delirium and paranoia. The doctors explained that he likely didn't recognize his surroundings or understand what was happening. That knowledge helped, but it didn't erase the fear I felt in those moments. I kept replaying the scene in my head, the look in his eyes, the strength of his grip, and the sound of the equipment crashing to the floor. I told myself over and over that it wasn't his fault. It was the injury, not the man. The experience left a mark on me. It reminded me of how thin the line can be between vulnerability and aggression when fear takes hold. As nurses, we're trained to stay calm and professional, but no training can fully prepare you for moments like that. I saw him again a few days later. He was awake and alert, but quieter. He didn't remember what had happened, and when I explained it to him, his face fell. He apologized, over and over, and even cried. I reassured him that he wasn't to blame, but I don't think he fully believed me. That night changed the way I look at my job. It taught me that sometimes the people we care for might lash out, not out of anger, but out of fear and confusion. And it's in those moments that we have to remind ourselves why we do what we do, to heal, to help, and to understand, even when it's hard.